So Donald Trump had a public freak out on social media after he was sentenced to an unconditional discharge in connection with the New York criminal case against him, where he was convicted on 34 separate felony counts. He's now an adjudicated felon because it's now a final judgment. So Trump goes on social media right after the sentencing, all caps, unfair, witch hunt, ad hominem attacks at the judge, saying horrific things about people. I can get in and I can talk about the specifics that he says, but, he goes and attacks the judge, the system, the prosecutor. What was so fascinating, Harry, and you pointed this out in real time when you and I were chatting with each other, was during the proceedings themselves, though, Donald Trump was very different. He was, I don't want to say respectful, but he was quiet. He was making some faces on the Zoom. He appeared virtually, but he looked nervous. He did not, by all accounts, if he was there in public, he could have started yelling and screaming and said, "The judge, you're very unfair." He said, "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor." And then he went on and gave a speech where he said that the district, he was almost nice to Alvin Bragg. It was weird. He was like, Alvin Bragg really didn't want to bring this case against me. He was forced to. This was all, very troubling. I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong. This is he said, I think he said, this is a hoax or this is not fair. But he didn't go, nothing like this. And so we've seen this pattern. It was during the trial as well. And I'm not asking you to kind of play psychiatrist here, but maybe I am in a little bit, because it's a very strange thing that you get all of these messages: radical Democrats, un-American witch hunt, 6 years of obsessive work. I was given an unconditional discharge. This person, serial perjury. This person, unfair, despicable. The judge, this, all this. But Harry, that's not how he acts in the courtroom. So, and now that he's the president-elect, I mean, it wasn't like the judge would sentence him to anything more if he behaved. What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, that last point to me, Ben, is really big, because I thought the table was set for an absolute circus performance on his part. Because think about it, the Supreme Court, in denying relief, made a big point of saying he's only going to get an unconditional discharge. Trump isn't even in the courtroom where the judge can order marshals to take him or gag him or whatever. So I thought there was a possibility he would go all out nuclear. And you're exactly right. He didn't, I attended the trial, and that's just how he was there. He would, shake his head sometimes. He did it a lot today. And, kind of mumble a little, did it a lot today. But, I've long since given up trying to psychoanalyze him, but I think it's a pretty straightforward point. That's not his arena. That's not where he's in charge. And I think he's scared to do something and lose. So it's just what he did at trial. He sat there and shifted in his chair, etc., and then went outside and staged these, tirades in press conferences, and really, tried to have it at the judge and everyone. Same thing he did at the end here. But I think it goes to show it's a little bit of a picture of the road not taken if some of the other cases had gone forward, because he, I think, he's really not used to not being in control. That's what was so chafing about the trial. You could really see it. And it was the same today, even though it might have been different. So he made 2 points, and which were sort of innocent themselves. One, I was treated unfairly, blah, blah, blah. He said that before. But second, he actually said, and this is his shtick now, he's going it broadly, he was exonerated. He's innocent. Why? Because he won the election. It's actually his sort of view that the popular vote somehow canceled out all the crimes that he has done. Maybe he even believes that as a matter of history. So that's a kind of a stunning position to take, but you see him taking it hard. But he said it pretty much in a subdued tones. The judge then followed up pretty much in subdued tones and then said, there's Donald Trump, the person, you're a guilty pedestrian criminal. Then there's the presidency. And he ended by saying, Godspeed to you as you take on the duties of your office, Mr. Trump, I think is how he put it. So, yeah, on both sides of that equation, that he was pretty subdued, and really he could have, I think, gone berserk, and it would have been hard for Merchan to do anything. But obviously his play is to just get this part over with a few mumbles and shakes of the head, then go out and give it to him with both barrels, which is exactly what he did.
Justice Merchan made that point that it's not you who I am giving some special advantage to,
right,
with this, with this no jail sentence, unconditional discharge thing. It's the office. I'm constrained by the office. I respect the office. Justice Merchan didn't say, not you, but he goes, I have to respect the office of the presidency. And with that office, I can't do what I would otherwise have done in a case. Justice Merchan said, while this was a unique case in that a former president was charged with crimes, when the case took place, there was actually nothing unique about it. He said there were 30 other trials taking place in the courtroom at the very same time during this trial. They all went through a voir dire process, which is the jury selection process, opening statements, witnesses, various motions throughout the process, closing arguments, jury verdict, conclusion. And this followed that same pattern when it wasn't Donald Trump's name. So there was nothing unique about the case. Evidence was presented, unanimous jury verdict. What is unique is now this office. I can't control that. So that was important to me. One other point, Harry, before turning it over to you. Justice Merchan protected this case. And you and I were talking about why unconditional discharge. And it seems that to win over Justice Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, there were two things that happened. One, flagging the unconditional discharge was going to be the remedy, and allowing Trump to do it virtually and not have to actually show up. Because otherwise, it's potential that Roberts and Coney Barrett could have viewed this as, will this be interfering with the transition? Because Justice Merchan stopped Trump from making that argument, I think that ultimately saved the day for, at the very least, the record to be preserved, that Trump is an adjudicated felon in this case. And so there are lots of people who may be critical of Merchan for not imposing a prison sentence. What's clear to me, whether we like it or not, I'm not giving you I'm just letting you know what I think would have happened based on reading the Supreme Court's denial of Trump's requested of a stay. I think that had there been a prison sentence imposed or forcing Donald Trump to show up, that may have been different. There may have been a different outcome by the Supreme Court. I could be wrong. I'd love to get your thoughts, Eric.
No, I think that's really right. They said two things, does the Supreme Court. And the second one is exactly this idea of unconditional discharge. That might have been critical for Roberts in particular, but there's really no great practical implication for him. And so I think you're right. And in general, Merchan is kind of an unsung or not fully sung hero here. He was very thoughtful and cautious, not just today, but in the opinion that he wrote up that said, this is what I'm going to do. In telegraphing, that was what he was going to do. I think with, just leaving it unclear, which normally a sentencing judge would do, right? He doesn't say, I'm going to come on and I'm going to give you no sentence. All those things, very deft, very adroit, and basically saved the day because of how he played it. Same thing today, by the way. He came out on the bench with a written, this is the way he was the way he planned to be. He came out with a written statement that was very calm, kind of began with sort of standard bromides about probably that you do in any kind of sentencing, and then went on to the somewhat harsh things he did say, but they were pretty muted. And just a final point here is I totally agree that the sort of, I took a lot of heat, including from some conservative commentators. When I'm getting trashed, it's always, I was so ebullient, and I thought it was a majestic word I think I used, result in the trial. And I was, but it wasn't because he was convicted. Rather, it was the minor miracle that in the context and the middle of all this bedlam that he was causing, the jury system responded as it was supposed to, pretty much kept all that out and just did their job one foot in front of another. And that was, I thought, a really sort of big win, as it were, for the justice system and democracy. And, you know, we'll see going forward now. There's, you're obviously, Trump's not finished in his revenge agenda. And when he came out, you also saw he totally took off after Michael Cohen, who, you know, he may be still yet to come after, and the like. But for today, he was on a leash, and it was good to see, just as any citizen should be in front of the majesty of the law, but he so rarely is.
What'd he say? He said, Michael Cohen's not George Washington, and he acted like he's George Washington. I mean, it's so bizarre how that guy's, you know, brain or lack thereof. Right. George Washington, well, you know, just the strangest stuff in the world. Who thought that? Who would think? You wonder, do you think Trump sees this guy going up there and he's like, that looks like George Washington to me? I mean, it's really strange stuff. Anyway, Harry, Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, and the Talking Feds Substack. That's the family of Talking Feds properties. Everybody, it's where I get my legal news from. You just search Talking Feds on any of the platforms and check it out. Thanks, Harry.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.